Hi, I'm Sam Trochio, and this is my reflection of assessment. So, this is what I'll be discussing: the usefulness framework, relevant, reliable, and valid, and positive impact. I know these are four domains, but I think reliability and validity go together. Equitable and diverse formative assessment, inclusion of stakeholders in student progress, and teachers as advocates for ELLs. That's where I'll be reflecting on what I've learned in this course and how it will enable me to be a better advocate for ELLs. So, assessments must be authentic. I believe that we should create original or modified summative and formative assessments as much as possible. We know that we see assessments all the time that we have to give students that don't apply to their culture, have words that they wouldn't use in everyday life or outside of that test. So McKay says they want children to be using language and tasks that are relevant and natural to child's world. I totally agree. She also quotes Cameron on page 114, and I like this quote a lot. Choosing activities and content that are appropriate for the child's age and sociocultural experience and language that will grow the children, in that although some vocabulary will no longer be needed, most of the language will provide a useful base for more grown-up purposes. So that's the idea of meeting students where they are. And if they're ELLs, incorporating their culture, looking at their everyday lives and the world around us and what language would they see and use in everyday life, and incorporating that into our formative and summative assessments. Assessments must be reliable and valid. And I like this image because they are not the same thing. And when they are reliable and valid, we get better results. So validity is a characteristic that refers to the soundness, trustworthiness, or legitimacy of the teacher's decisions. And I like that teacher's decisions part because when we are deliberate about the materials we give students, whether it's assessments or just content in class, then we stand by that, and our accountability as teachers increases, and they feel accountable for their learning. It works in tandem. Also, they suggest that reliability can be checked in classroom form assessment through the collection of sufficient observation data over many tasks. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later through portfolios, but reliability really is important for ELLs because one test score shouldn't determine everything. So assessments must have a positive impact. Now, I know when students hear assessment or test, a lot of them clam up. So when adults in their lives, whether it's administration, teachers, parents, understand the purpose of the assessment, what skill is really being assessed, why do we need it, where are you going to use it, is it just in this classroom, is it in the world, is it other classes, then students really feel more supported and confident in their abilities, and they may do their best, because we all know students sometimes blow off tests because they don't have positive impacts. So McKay says teachers and assessors would clearly seek positive impact for the assessment procedure. Impact on teaching and learning is also known as washback. So positive, the motivation to learn, build confidence, build relationships. And we see that right after the assessment and how we review it, how we discuss it with students, how it's administered. Negative, we see withdrawal, discouragement, narrowing of curriculum, and really nobody wants that. A school feels like a jail when we're just focused on standards and the test doesn't feel approachable. So creating a positive impact, or facilitating a positive impact rather, is really important. So assessments must be equitable and diverse. Now, in the Becerra text, they say that portfolios are a great way to go, and I agree. It's a collection of student work toward a particular skill or standard. Now, I narrowed it down a little bit because I think students seeing their growth in a particular area is more useful than just a bunch of work slabbed together. They say document performance in a meaningful context. So that's what I'm talking about, skill and standard. Includes many form of evidence of learning. So it could be different, could be audio, could be visual, could be writing, reading, that the teacher's tracking, documenting progress over time, reflection and comments made by students and teachers. So we're not just throwing this work into a folder. The students are actually reflecting on how they did compared to earlier in the year. Student voice, what to include and why. Any language can be used by student teachers. So that also makes it more culturally inclusive. Now, you may be wondering, are they reliable? Because they're not standardized tests. And in the Becerra book, they mention Assessments involving scoring of collections or student work or observed performances vary in their reliance on local scores, such as teachers and local school staff, versus reliance on professionally hired scores who are not immediately familiar with the students in their communities. So I think having portfolios along with test scores could help with the reliability, but also sharing them with parents, maybe even sharing them with mentors that the teachers have. And are they practical? So I have 100 students, 120 students, and there's students that come in and out throughout the school year. We have absence problems. There's all kinds of things that get in the way of keeping a cohesive portfolio. Now, I think it would be important to just focus on ELLs or any particularly struggling subgroup and then go from there. Because once you have those systems in place, it makes it a lot easier to track their data in a portfolio and have it actually be a functioning tool to look at their growth. So assessments must be inclusive. And I love this picture because students get tests back or grades back, and what the parent thinks, what the teacher thinks, what the students think, sometimes they don't align. So students, family, administration, teachers all need to be included in what's being assessed, how are the results being used? Is it high stakes testing? Is it low stakes testing? What are the results of this? And why are we administrating it? So low stakes, we see that when they have to take tests, and typically they don't care, if they're low stakes, they won't try as hard if they don't see the results affecting them in some way. But then high stakes testing can also be cumbersome because students get really, really freaked out if, WIDA scores, that has immediate consequences on their schedule and things like that, what their classes look like, how they're assessed in the future, the type of tasks they get. So in the book, they say, in the Becerra book, they say property of assessment score is that is only and always an estimate of what an individual knows and can do under assessment. So that's really, really important to convey to parents, to administration, teachers, students, because the WIDA is one test. But if you have a portfolio that shows more than that, then you can look at the whole child and see what they need, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. So through this course and through other the ESL classes, I really thought that to be an ESL teacher is to be an activist, especially today where immigration is political and kids being in your classroom is political. And by deciding to teach ESL students, we are making the decision that we are an activist. We support them being here in this country. We support them having the best education possible. And formative assessments can help gather data to show the students' strengths and weaknesses that standardized assessments may not show, and they can help advocate for the type of education that a student will receive. So if a teacher is diligent about collecting formative assessments, tracking that, then they can make a case for a student's growth and place in the classroom. I've also thought about what makes a supportive classroom, incorporating choice and the cultures, especially of students, varied assessment strategies, and progress tracking. Varied assessment strategies, I think, are really important because they show what a whole person can do with this skill, especially with reading and writing. And then a teacher accountability. So it's hard to keep track of everything and to be very diligent and purposeful, but I think it helps with our accountability. So say how we're assessed as teachers, but also ensures that students are getting the best kind of education possible. If we can stand behind the materials we're giving them and explain the skills that those materials will promote in students, then we're standing up and saying, we've done the best that we can. We've helped this kid every way that we can, and they're growing. So that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching my presentation, and thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Have a great holiday break.